So some people are saying like, oh, he set this up for a while because he just wanted to have some of her money. And now there is actually a clip that has surfaced from a discussion that they were actually having while Kandi was getting her makeup done, and they were talking about who should get what when it comes to the money when a man and a woman gets divorced, especially when a woman, let's say she might have been making a lot of money before they even got divorced. So let's see and hear what they had to say.
Should do that. Let's work on this. Like he's setting you up. He's organizing you. He's getting your shit right.
You saying like a Wendy Williams situation?
Oh, I don't really know that thing, but I'm just saying that he helps you blow up.
I'm saying because he was like her manager, right?
No, I'm just saying someone who like really influences, who's really there. So now you blew up. You wasn't blown up. Now you blew up.
Okay, I like how Steve Harvey saying he is now with his wife. But the money I had when I came in this thing,
But nobody's talking about nobody's
no,
even,
but
that's not even part of the conversation.
No, but it is to me because what I'm saying is when you and I got together in marriage,
right,
and we made more businesses, we made more, there were more things happening.
Right.
To me, the money that was made after marriage, that's a different conversation because we both contributed, whatever.
And they say it is an old clip from like 2023, but they're saying that this is very telling for what could be potentially going on right now and why people are saying they think Todd is just after her for her money and things like that. Because in the clip, as you guys heard, it seems like Kandi is kind of saying all the money that I had before I got married, that's my money. Like nobody deserves to get that money in a divorce. Anything that we brought in together after the fact, we could split that because we helped build that together. But what Todd is saying is like, oh wait though, like what about the ways that I have helped or a man has helped build up their woman, because there's a lot of things behind the scenes that a man might do to contribute to help that woman get to where she's at, where, he's not the face of it, obviously, but he still put in that work. Should he still get some of that? And so I think it's very interesting because I don't really hear this conversation too much when the shoe is on the other foot. And like, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here. I'm just speaking from what I have seen. But like, let's say we have a basketball player, right? Let's say I'm looking at you.
Okay.
Wow, you ain't even looking at me back. That's crazy. We have a basketball player, right? And let's say that this basketball player has a whole lot of money and he ends up getting with some young woman who doesn't really have a career for herself. Right. She's just like being a baby mama to him, whatever it is, right? If they were to get married and then later on get divorced, I feel like she's still going to be compensated fairly for being with him and just being married, especially if they don't have like a prenup type situation. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
No, I do agree with that. A lot of times when it comes down to the divorce between a man and a woman, and a man has already, made himself the man he wanted to be, the woman ends up walking away with a lot more.
Exactly. She ends up getting some of his money, even though she didn't necessarily contribute to it outside of, before they got married and they just have like a kid together, right? So when I'm hearing that Miss Kandi here is saying like, okay, anything that I had beforehand, you definitely don't deserve any of that. While I don't disagree with that, I think that we should also feel that same way when it is a man with all of the money and, the woman didn't necessarily do anything. Also, I just want to point out there too that with Todd and with Kandi, they have a lot of businesses together that since they have been married, they have expanded for sure and have made a lot of money together. So either way, whatever they end up coming to the conclusion of how much one person should get over the other, I'm sure it will be fair because they have built up a lot together. But it was just an interesting thing to me because I just don't see that usually on the other side, y'all. Like when a woman wants to get a divorce from a man and she hasn't really helped build him up or she wasn't with him shooting in the gym, I don't usually see people saying like, oh, I don't really see her not getting a large chunk of that pie unless they had something prior to set in place. But what do y'all think? Put in the chat, like who deserves to get what type of money? Like, should it be shared? Should it be split? why is there such a big difference between a woman having her money first before she got married versus a man having his money first before getting married? It just I don't know, seems hypocritical in a sense to me.
And I mean, I would assume right now that Kandi has a lot more money than her ex-husband right now, right?
Soon to be ex-husband.
Soon to be ex-husband. Because and I think that's one of the reasons why she's really, and this is a conversation to be had, because in the state of Georgia, it's typically 50-50 unless somebody else has a significantly a lot more money than the other person. And it seems to me, that when it comes down to, marriage, like you just said, Juice, a lot of times it tips in the woman's favor. However, if the man happens to do a lot more, or he can actually show that, hey, I have had a significant amount of energy put into this relationship and have done a few different things, especially if he has more dealings with the kids or whatever, it may go into his favor, and that's why I say, before you guys do get married, know who the hell you dealing with. I think a lot of times people jump into marriages and don't understand the person that they're with, because that person can leave you, and if they ever do leave you, you need to know the ramifications of what could come after.
I just don't think it's easy to say, you need to know who you're dealing with, but people change, bro.
That's
like
true.
people change within
bro.
5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, where you don't necessarily recognize the person who you were with anymore, and it's just like, what do you do then? You still have to make the tough decision to potentially get a divorce from them.
And see, and this is the thing too, as people change and grow, like, they always say that it's typically a huge percentage of people who do get divorced. It's typically because the woman wants the divorce. The woman is the person who's like, you know what, I'm finna get divorced, versus the man. The man typically is willing to go through hell and hot water for his woman, but as soon as the woman feels like, you know what, he may be a burden on me, he may be breaking me down, dragging me down, she ready to go up and jump and live her best life.
I think it depends though on if he has a lot of money or not, because some men stay and cheat in a marriage and be unhappy in their marriage just because they don't want to have to give their money up. That's why they don't file for divorce.
But most women file for divorce first, and that's
right. But you're saying men don't file for divorce.
I'm not saying, I never said that men don't file
you're
for divorce.
You're saying women do it more often.
Yes, women typically.
And I'm telling you why that is the case, in my opinion. It's because men have sometimes, depending on the man, he might have a lot of the money, especially if she's just like a stay-at-home mom type of situation, and what do they say? It's cheaper to keep her, right? Mm-hmm. It's just cheaper to keep her. Even if you're not happy with the way your marriage is going, you're not going to try to get a divorce because you don't want her to take all of your money.
I don't agree with that though. It's cheaper to keep her, man, because ultimately you may go and live by the mantra it's cheaper to keep her, but at the same time, if you're living by that mantra, you may be paying by giving up your mental health. You may be paying by your emotional state, your spiritual state of what you're actually giving up in this relationship. She may have you stressed out each and every day, but you finna go ahead and stay in this relationship just because you want to save your money. Nah, man, save your peace.
But it might not even be, well, I don't want to say it might not even be about peace, but that's why sometimes they end up getting like a side chick or something like that, because it's like, okay, I'm going to just deal with what I have to deal with when I'm at the crib. But when I'm not at the crib, I'm about to get my peace elsewhere. That's how these guys out here ended up having second families that you know nothing about, because that's where a lot of their time is going. Is this going to that side chick who's bringing them that peace?
Yeah. I mean, and see, that's the thing though. We were just talking about the side piece conversation just because, Summer Walker wanted to be a side piece. Like, you know what? She like, Rich the Kid, I just want to be your side piece. I see your wife over there, but let me play my position up over here. And then the audio gets leaked. And I think, again, we have to tap back into who we are as people. We have to really know who we are and know what we want before we decide to make a commitment. Because, ultimately,
I don't agree.
Well, you should know at least some. If you're 30 plus, you should know something of what you want in life. All right, if you are 30 plus, you should know something of what you want in life, even when it comes down to love. You should be, especially if you're going to make a commitment to somebody. That's what your boy Jammin is saying. You shouldn't just be out here playing with people's hearts or anything like that. Make some kind of commitment, and then I think things will flow a little bit easier for you in life. But as long as you out here, making a commitment to one person, but then playing over here in this area and playing over here in this area, that's how your life ends up becoming very messy. As you just said before, a gentleman out here having, a family out in Kenosha, then having a family in Milwaukee, then having a family over in Madison, Wisconsin. You know how stressed out that man has to be? Or do you realize how, separated each and every one of his seeds will be from their siblings. You know, it causes the whole broken family idea as it keeps on permeating unless you decide to bring all those women together. Just saying.
No, I can understand what you're coming from, but that's also a reason why I feel like it's taking people a lot longer to even deciding to get married, because they don't want to have to deal with a potential divorce. You know, they don't want to have
Nobody
to
wants to deal with heartbreak.
I don't even think it's about heartbreak. Honestly, I think people be thinking about money.
Nobody want to be over there.
I'm not gonna lie to you. No, I'm not gonna lie to you. The guys that I have talked to or heard from, they ain't saying nothing about no heartbreak. They're talking about their money.
Man, folks not finna tell you about their emotional state. Like, they're not finna just open up and be like, bro, I was really heartbroken over that girl. You know what I'm saying? And cry to you about it. You know what I'm saying? And
I can agree with that part, but they be mentioning their money.
I'm just saying, shoot. and I guess, you Part of it is money, but at the same time, if you cared about that person, just like it is when it comes down to Kandi Burruss and her dude right now, or soon to be ex-husband or whatever, they're definitely gonna be a little bit shook up and heartbroken behind all of this. I would assume so, being together for 14 years since 2011 till now. You know, it's one of these things that you sat back and you watched Kandi, you know, blow up through being up on the TV. You know, she may have had her radio dealings and her music dealings beforehand, but her actually coming to the TV screen, I think, you know, heightened her whole entire brand and revived her brand. So he saw her elevation throughout that time period, and I'm certain that he was helping her, helping build her up throughout that time. But now it's like, you know what? That was one point in my life. Now this time is up, and it's time to move on.
I just feel like that doesn't get highlighted. That doesn't get highlighted enough, in my opinion. Is the work that a man might be doing behind the scenes, and I'm not saying this is for Kandi and Todd. I don't know what they got going on behind the scenes, but if the woman is the front-facing person, right? People would just assume that the guy she's with ain't doing nothing, when really he's probably doing a lot of things to like help her be who she is, you know? And so I don't think it's fair to call somebody like a bum just because the one person might be more known than the other one. You know, like, that's not fair to say.
But that's how, you know, it's public perception, though. You know, because somebody may think that, you know, oh, man, your man ain't doing nothing for you. Your girl ain't doing nothing for you. But you don't know what goes on inside that person's home. You know, you don't know who's taking up more of the chores. You don't understand who's paying more of the bills. You know, you really don't know. And that's why you can't judge a book by a cover. You know, the only people who really know what was going on in that particular relationship is those people who were in that relationship. They know every conversation, and, you know, they know every argument they may have even had, you know, and then some of them may have actually lost a few brain cells in between that. You know what I'm saying? They may have lost a few brain cells. So, you know, it's definitely devastating. I would believe that when it comes down to finding somebody that you love and having to separate from them, it's one of them things like, damn, like I never wanted to come to this, but, you know, I got to move on.
Let's see what they're saying in the chat.
You know, hit the confessions with them. You know,
what you get the O from? That was Omarion, wasn't it?
Well, the O was, but the O came from Confessions first, though. You know, when Usher did the Confessions joint.
What part?
I think it's actually, you know what? It's Let It Burn. My bad. My bad. It was Let It Burn, y'all.
Guy.
I think it's time for Let It Burn when you're feeling things and ain't nobody do. But if
do you know the lyrics?
Go. Somebody ain't nothing like you used to. Like it. Let it burn. Gotta let it burn. Gotta let it burn.
All right, let's head to the chat. Let's see what the chat is saying right now. Sincere says arguments don't matter if it's documented in the prenuptial. I agree with that. That's why some people have to make sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
Like, how many folks really getting the prenup work?
But that's why it's something important that you should think about, because if you are somebody who has a lot of money, you need to figure out, like, okay, how is this all gonna go down? How is this all gonna go down when it's all said and done? All right. You got Trey Tay, who says, I agree with what Kandi said, but if it was a man who had majority of the money, just know the woman more times than not is trying to break his heart. I get that one right there. We got Josh Germain, who says, that's why it's key for women who got a bag to not date or marry a guy who's not on her level. He will never respect her because he's too insecure that he couldn't get it on his own. This is a perfect example. Men expect women to not be the breadwinner because they just want to enslave her to be a housewife for free labor and call it marriage. Most men project women will do them the same way. Shaking my head. Dang, is that do you think that that's true? Like, should people date on their level, like their money level, in their price range?
I think it's
man, but see, Josh. Okay, keep going.
No, go ahead. Go
I was gonna say, like, I don't know if that's fair to say, because, like I said, on the other side, we don't look at it that way. Like, when it comes to a man, he could pick up a woman who's working at Wendy's if he got a lot of money, and he gonna change her life and not even care where she coming from, not even care what her background is, not even care like if she has money or not. He just gonna pick her up and change her life, I guess, because in his mind, men are supposed to provide anyway. But then when it's on the other side, it's like, oh, well, if a woman is making a lot of money, she can't date the bus driver. You know, she has to date the 6-figure, 7-figure CEO who's making at least the same amount of money as her, or more money than her. And I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I think that that's not fair, but I think that maybe that's just how society is and how they think of things, and that's just the differences between men and women.
Very true, because at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people would go to assume that the man has to take care of the woman, and never that the woman has to take care of the man. And if you ever take a look at relationships or marriages that have worked out, when, you know, it'd be them old couples who've been together for, you know, decades on end, at some point in time, you know, it kind of floated in between who had more, or who was taking up more of the relationship, whether it was, you know, Barack Obama and Michelle. They may have both been financially stable. However, Michelle went on to go say that she hated Barack Obama for a solid 10 years. So you don't know the type of weight that she was putting on her shoulders just to make certain that she could maintain that relationship. All the stuff that Barack may have been saying to Michelle that she like, this N-word pissing me off. You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, I can smack 5 from your mouth right now. I don't give a damn about you being a senator of Chicago right now. I really don't care, Barack. You know, she could have been on all those types of things. So you never know who has to carry more weight with inside of those relationships. But when it comes down to financially, should you actually date on your financial level? I could see how it could be somewhat easier to build with. And especially if you're looking at marriage as a business, as it once historically was, or how some, you know, communities look at it as, or you could truly just be marrying for love and out of love, which typically, from what we've seen from the movie screens, tend to be the better relationships. You know, if you just marry somebody for who they are, the character that they are, you know, you may not ever end up in a divorce just because you know the type of person that this person is. They could be a good-hearted person, good-spirited person. You know, you guys may have some great sex together as well. You know, you like, you know what, this really is my rock, and I'm gonna stick it out with this person, no matter if they're broke, no matter if they're rich, no matter if they're, you know, just super poor. I'm gonna make certain that this person can figure it out, and I can figure it out with them. And those tend to be the relationships that somebody, you know, ends up being with forever. You know, on the other end, you know, you do see where people already come in as established individuals, may meet later in their 30s or whatever, and they're both established, got both good, you know, budding careers and things of that nature, but because of them not doing the work on each other, or the inner workings on themselves, so they could actually truly grow a union together, you know, knowing this person in their worst of times, knowing this person in their best of times, knowing this person when they're sad, knowing this person when they're happy. If they didn't do those types of works together, then they may truly grow apart.
Yeah, you said a whole lot there. You said a whole lot. But yeah, it's just interesting to me how, you know, things can get flipped, and how people can see things differently just based off of if it's coming from a man's side or if it's coming from a woman's side. But I want to head to the chat real quick over some things that people are saying. I think Trey Tay was saying all men aren't jealous over their woman, and you have some women jealous of their man's success, saying Ayesha Curry is jealous of Steph Curry's success. I'm not even gonna get into that right now.
It's super messy, ain't it? I believe that though, Trey Tay. I really do.
You believe what? That Ayesha jealous of Steph?
Yeah, like I really do believe she is jealous of Steph Curry, bro. Like they may have this wonderful life together, but at the end of the day, I think Ayesha Curry is truly envious of Steph Curry. Like she's married Superman, you know, and she wants to be Superwoman, but she don't got no superpowers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and she goes on to say that, you know, ultimately she wanted to go and chase her dreams, and she has put her dreams on the back burner for Steph Curry's success. I understand that. You know, I'm a dreamer myself. I would never want, you know, my dreams to be stifled by anybody that I was truly in a relationship with and said that I love. I would never want that to be a case. However, she's allowed these things to happen, and I think she should be more happy for Steph Curry and just find her pocket where she can be happy.
But why
she's
do you
been a
think
mother
she's
before.
not happy?
because of the things that she does and says inside of these interviews. Like, she needs to not be in the interview anymore at all, because she makes Steph Curry look bad. Like, what did she say last time? It's actually what I'm spewing out right now. How she went on to go say, like, hey, I married Steph Curry, NBA basketball player, but on top of being married to him, I had to be a mom, and it's no down talk to moms. That's a beautiful thing. And she had to be a mom, she had to be a cook, she had to learn all these other things to how to move inside of Steph Curry's world, and didn't really create a world of her own. And I can understand where she's coming from, but if you're, comfortable to sit back on a couch and voice these opinions about, and voice your feelings about, your husband and yourself and your place in your own relationship, I think you should truly take some time for yourself to go and actually go out there and venture out. If I was Steph Curry and this is my wife saying these types of things inside of interviews or whatever, I would make sure that she finds her place in her own world. I think sometimes we do get too caught up in somebody else's world, and we become somebody's boyfriend, somebody's girlfriend, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's uncle, whatever it may have you, and you don't take time to build for yourself. And I think when you don't take time to build for yourself, that's what ends up happening. You end up becoming an Ayesha Curry, hating on your lover, hating on your spouse, not seeing and then actually valuing the success that your counterpart is having or has had.
I don't think she's jealous of him at all.
Why not?
Because I think she was just expressing what you said, as far as, she didn't really see this life for herself in this particular way. And she's trying to figure out a way to get it to how she would want it to be. I think she's very happy with her husband. I think she's proud of all of his success. I think she's just saying she doesn't want to just be known as only this one thing, as just Steph Curry's wife. She's an individual person, and she had her own dreams before she started being with Steph and having all of these children. I think that she just wanted to express that. Yeah. That's what I thought of it. I didn't necessarily think she was jealous. And I would be interested to see how Steph Curry honestly feels about this. Because, yes, he's quiet. He doesn't say anything. He does not do interviews like that at all whatsoever. But I wonder if people are just projecting like their own thoughts and feelings of how they feel about it onto him versus how he actually, truly, honestly feels about it. Because it's like, oh, he's embarrassing Steph, she's embarrassing Steph. It's like, how does Steph feel? Does he feel embarrassed? I would love to know. And maybe as a man, you're thinking from a man's perspective, and you're like, no, as a man, I know for a fact he's feeling some type of way. He's just not going to say it. I'm not a man. I can't say what he might or might not be feeling, but I just don't want people to be projecting how they feel about the situation and what they would or wouldn't do onto their situation and what they got going on.
Yeah, I think she needs to be more like LeBron James' wife.
Why does everybody always like compare them?
Needs to be more like, because Steph Curry is one of the greatest of all time. All right, if we truly being honest, that's number one. Like, so we already have our hearts tied to what Steph Curry got going on. Number two, LeBron James, I'm certain he's done his things behind closed doors. Savannah ain't never came forward to say any of this stuff. Savannah ain't never felt like she had to just sit in an interview. She just was like, you know what? I'm going to be a good mom. This is what I'm going to do. We may live in a nice house, but I'm going to go ahead and respect my king. I'm going to respect King James, and that's just what it's going to be. On the other end, you got Ayesha Curry over here talking about, what I wish I could have done, publicly. Does she ever realize how, and we were just talking about the PR idea, does she ever realize how the public may interpret what she's saying, or does she just go out there and spew things out? Because this could truly impact the Curry brand forever, especially after his tenure is over.
I mean, I would say she's not wrong for saying how she felt and being honest.
Then tell that to your husband. Don't tell it to a microphone.
She had.
Don't talk about it on a podcast.
Said it to her husband.
What happened to your vows?
But I will say it might not have been the wisest thing that she could have done is go and, bring all of this attention to the situation, because how the public, even if you have good intentions about it, and because in that interview, she even later on went on to go say how much she loves Steph, she loves their marriage, she's so happy with him and all of the things. They're not going to clip that part up. They're just going to clip up the part that is going to get the most hits, the most views, the more comments and engagement and controversy. But as the wife, or even as the husband, if roles were flipped, you do have to be a little bit more mindful of how things can be interpreted. No, she's not necessarily wrong for how she feels, but I don't know if it was the wisest thing for her to go do, because now it has stirred up so much conversation, and we don't know how that affects her household.
And we don't know how it affects her her household. We truly don't know. We don't know what's happening behind the closed doors of the Curry house. However, what we do know is how the public is starting to feel about Ayesha Curry, and how some people who do follow Steph Curry going to say, they're like, you know what? I think Ayesha Curry and Steph Curry need a divorce. And this comes around full
that's
circle.
what I'm talking
this
about.
comes around
Needs
full
a
circle.
Now they need a divorce, bro.
This is what the internet is saying.
People are projecting.
And people do project. People do project.
Like, that's dumb.
But it also causes the energy and the ripple effects for it to actually truly happen.
I hope that they are able to stay together forever. I will say
like
that maybe they do need to chill out on talking a lot.
Yeah.
But like, I wouldn't want to put that on them, because divorce is not like a fun thing to go through, I'm assuming.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, his wife don't be out here doing all the interviews, getting all the press. She don't be caring about none of that stuff. Ayesha wants some of that fame, bro. She wants some of the limelight. There's so many different NBA basketball wives who the basketball wives didn't even come out and say there was basketball wives like that until Basketball Wives, the show dropped. Okay, and they the old women. All right, they're the older women who age like fine wine, who know the game about being an NBA basketball wife. So I'm just saying, take a page out of their book, Ayesha, and be quiet.